Hello. Welcome to the schools that have joined us today. And hello again to those that have been with us since last evening. My name is Parinita Bali. Before I begin my presentation, I want to ask everybody seated here a few simple questions. Which of your senses do you trust the most? Is there anyone here with an answer? Yes. You trust your intuition the most? All right. How many of you seated here in the audience trust your sight the most? All right. That's brilliant. May I now please request you to pay attention to the video that is going to be played.
You open your eyes and there's the world. Seeing is believing, sight is truth, right? Well, that's what I thought. Then, from age 12 to 25, my retinas progressively deteriorated. My sight became an increasingly bizarre carnival funhouse hall of mirrors and illusions. The salesperson I was relieved to spot in the store was really a mannequin. Reaching down to wash my hands, I suddenly saw it was a urinal I was touching, not a sink, when my fingers felt its true shape. A friend described the photograph in my hand, and only then I could see the image depicted. Objects appeared, morphed, and disappeared in my reality. It was difficult and exhausting to see. I pieced together fragmented, transitory images, consciously analyzed the clues, searched for some logic in my crumbling kaleidoscope, until I saw nothing at all. I learned that what we see is not universal truth. It is not objective reality. What we see is a unique, personal, virtual reality that is masterfully constructed by our brain. Let me explain with a bit of amateur neuroscience. Your visual cortex takes up about 30% of your brain. That's compared to approximately 8% for touch and 2 to 3% for hearing. Every second, your eyes can send your visual cortex as many as 2 billion pieces of information. The rest of your body can send your brain only an additional billion. So sight is 1/3 of your brain by volume and can claim about 2/3 of your brain's processing resources. It's no surprise then that the illusion of sight is so compelling. But make no mistake about it, sight is an illusion. Here's where it gets interesting. To create the experience of sight, your brain references your conceptual understanding of the world, other knowledge, your memories, opinions, emotions, mental attention, all of these things, and far more, are linked in your brain to your sight. These linkages work both ways and usually occur subconsciously. So, for example, what you see impacts how you feel, and the way you feel can literally change what you see. Numerous studies demonstrate this. If you are asked to estimate the walking speed of a man in a video, for example, your answer will be different if you're told to think about cheetahs or turtles. A hill appears steeper if you've just exercised, and a landmark appears farther away if you're wearing a heavy backpack. We have arrived at a fundamental contradiction. What you see is a complex mental construction of your own making, but you experience it passively as a direct representation of the world around you. You create your own reality and you believe it. I believed mine until it broke apart.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Isaac Lidsky. Isaac Lidsky may possess the most eclectic resume in the business. Over the years, he has been a child television star, a Supreme Court clerk, and the co-founder of an internet startup. He also graduated Harvard at the age of 19. Although his full list of accomplishments is far longer, perhaps the most striking characteristic is that Lidsky is only 39 and he is blind. He was born with retinitis pigmentosa, a rare degenerative disease of the retina. From age 12 to 25, he slowly lost his sight. Now again, I would like to ask the audience seated here, do you still trust your sight the most? All right. So what in... Can I have the stage lights on, please? What would you do if you were So what would you do had you lost your sight? What would you do? Which of yours, what is your, say, second most favored sense? Hearing? Intuition? Alright, ma'am, could you tell me how would your intuition help you in a particular situation?
Well, one of the things that I would do is rely on my internal instinct, right, which kind of tells me whether to go forward or backward, sidestep, things like that. And then when I listen to certain voices and stimuli, but to what extent I could trust them. So I would go by my intuition. That's it.
Touch? Could you tell me how, alright, that's a very valid point. Yours is too. Could you tell me how touch would help you go about day-to-day?
Basically, when we start thinking, touch helps us to feel it. Actually, the sense organs works very well when we touch something. Even though you don't see, probably you are hearing something, you may feel that kind of a steam comes out of a hot water. You can feel it is hot.
Yes.
And the same way, if you go to the eyes or something, if you touch it, you can immediately feel that it is something cold. Probably you may refer yourself to doing certain things with the help of touch, even though you don't see. So normally we see many blind people, they go with the help of touch or perception, where they work better actually.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Just to add here, that I think is very important, where we trusted our sight. If you were born blind, you will not know what reality is. You can only perceive it or understand your other senses depending on how much have you taken that trust for. If this person got blind at the age of 12, his thinking about the other side and his trust on all the other ways was a little more. You know, unlike to somebody who's lost the sight at a very early age. So what you thought about that a hot water with a vapor can only happen with touch when you actually have seen a vapor earlier. So that was it.
I remember doing this experiment when I was in college, that I used to close my eyes when I used to take a shower because I used to feel it's a very controlled environment. And I was surprised that within 30 seconds I forgot that my eyes are closed. So my question is, I don't think there's one particular sense that takes over. I think the whole system recalibrates itself. It gives you the most precise possible picture or inner idea of the environment around you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so I agree with here. So we have those our five senses. Other than that, we also have a sense of balance. The body has a sense of balance. And as far as intuition usually comes, we rely on our memory for our intuition. So all of these are not our senses in the typical sense of the word, perhaps. But then yes, I think it all operates in sort of tandem with each other. There is no sense that operates in isolation. And if at all we look at any individual sense, I think it gives us a different map. To use the map metaphor that we often use for TOK, it gives us a different picture, different part of the reality is highlighted through different senses, is what I'm saying.
Thank you. Yes, that's absolutely valid. So I think one of the points that has come up with the discussion from the teachers, by the way, why are the students not participating? But I think one of the points that has come up is that if you were to lose one of your senses, your other senses augment. So they're more enhanced at this point. Does the audience agree with that? Alright. So now the second question I would like to pitch to the audience here is that how many of you seated in the audience cover the cameras of your laptops or phones? Alright. Could any of you explain why? Does anyone want to explain why? Yes.
I personally
someone's looking at you through the lens. And it's like, we had like a talk with you about like the dark web and everything, and now that I've read that, I just want to do it for safety. It's like a precaution.
Alright. So did everybody hear what she said? Does everybody agree with that hypothesis that there is possibly a secret group controlling the world? Or the government is looking at us? Alright. So at this point, what Isaac Linsky said about our brain creating a reality for ourselves. And the idea that what we see is it. There is nothing beyond that. So to be able to, is it true that we then depend on one sense a lot more than we depend on the other? And this dependence on a sense, does that hinder progress in any shape or form? Or does that hinder our ability to explore more? Does anybody want to? Alright. Okay, so I will leave you with that thought. Please think about it, and this has been my time. At this point, I would like to invite Tejas Tanay Sharma to take forth the rest of the proceedings. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I have here with me a piece of paper. Can anyone tell me what the color of this paper is? How many of you think the color of this paper is white? How many of you think it's blue? How many of you think it's green? Well, to me, from my perspective, it's red. From this activity, we can infer that doubt influences our perspective and consequently influences our reality. And I believe we can all agree on the premise that doubt is the driving force on our quest for knowledge. We have reached a point in our evolution where we are questioning our own existence and our own reality. The obvious cause for this development is a discipline, technology. We will now see a video of Elon Musk and his take on reality.
Sort of a philosophic concept that a sufficiently advanced civilization will be able to create a simulation. Yeah, maybe you've answered this before? A simulation.
I had so many simulation discussions, it's crazy.
Okay.
So,
because
in fact, it got to the point where basically every conversation was the AI/simulation conversation. And my brother and I finally agreed that we would ban such conversations if we were ever in a hot tub. That was like, because that really kills the magic.
So the idea is, right, any sufficiently advanced civilization could create a simulation that's like our existence. And so the theory follows that maybe we're in the simulation. Have you thought about this? And
a lot.
Are we?
Even in hot tub?
No.
So much so that it has to be banned from a hot tub.
Okay.
It's not the sexiest conversation.
Are we in? Are we in?
I think here's, remember, like the strongest argument for us being in a simulation, probably being in a simulation, I think is the following. That 40 years ago, we had Pong, like 2 rectangles and a dot. That was what games were. Now, 40 years later, we have photorealistic 3D simulations with millions of people playing simultaneously, and it's getting better every year. And soon we'll have virtual reality, augmented reality. If you assume any rate of improvement at all, then the games will become indistinguishable from reality. Just become indistinguishable. Even if that rate of advancement drops by 1,000 from what it is right now, then you just say, okay, well, let's imagine it's 10,000 years in the future, which is nothing in the evolutionary scale. So
So given that we're clearly on our trajectory to have games that are indistinguishable from reality, and those games could be played on any set-top box or on a PC or whatever, and there would probably be, billions of such, computers or set-top boxes, it would seem to follow that the odds that we're in base reality is 1 in billions.
So,
Tell me what's wrong with that argument.
is the answer yes?
The argument is probably. I mean, I was like, is there a flaw in that
I
argument?
mean, someone.
I'm not sure what if the error.
No, the argument makes sense. So the assumption then is that somebody beat us to it, and this is a game.
No, there's a 1 in billions chance that this is base reality.
Oh, okay. What do you think?
Well, I think it's 1 in billions.
Okay.
That seems to be like clearly what what it suggests.
Right.
And actually, arguably, we should hope that that's true, because otherwise, if civilization stops advancing, then that may be due to some calamitous event that erases civilization. So maybe we should be hopeful that this is a simulation, because otherwise,
It's like a reboot.
well, otherwise, either we're going to create simulations that are indistinguishable from reality, or civilization will cease to exist. Those are the 2 options.
Elon Musk, the founder and CEO of Tesla, suggests that humans are basically an advanced version of The Sims. Yes, that idea sounds pretty absurd, but it's not a new one. Swami Vivekananda, Indian philosopher, gave his perspective on this illusion of reality and the concept of Maya 100 years ago. And I quote, he said, "Maya is not an illusion as it is popularly interpreted. Maya is real, yet it is not real. It is real in that the real is behind it and gives its appearance of reality. That which is real in Maya is the reality in and through Maya. Yet the reality is never seen, and hence that which is seen is unreal. And it has no real independent existence of itself, but is dependent upon the real for its existence. Maya then is a paradox, real yet not an illusion. He who sees the real sees in Maya not illusion, but reality. He who knows not the real sees in Maya illusion and thinks it real. Now with virtual reality, we know that what we are looking at is not real, but to our senses and our minds it is, and we act accordingly. In this version we live in, it seems real to us because we have known, but reality could be very different. It is Plato's allegory of the cave, which we are all familiar with. But to recap, Plato suggests that you have prisoners chained in a cave from birth, not able to look at each other or anywhere besides the wall directly in front of them. All they see are shadows projected on the wall by a fire behind them that they have never seen. This is all they have known. So to them, shadows are reality, and the voices they hear are from the shadows as well. Since they've never experienced anything else, ever seen a real person, had a human interaction, they have no understanding of the outside world or the world at all. And if a prisoner were to escape and leave the cave, they would be so frightened and confused by what they see, they would choose to come back to the comfort of the cave of their reality. And just like the prisoners in the cave, what we see in front of us, we believe to be true, believe to be real. Believe to be real. The difficulty in deciding whether what we're in is real life or simulated life is what NYU professor David Schaumer said, that any evidence that we get could be simulated. Which begs the question, are we the product of someone else's creation who have ended up creating our own free will? And is reality real? Thank you.
Can I have a show of hands here? How many of you believe in extraterrestrial life? Okay. Why? Could it be that the sheer enormity of the cosmos forces you to acknowledge some probability of extraterrestrial life? And for those of you who don't believe in it, why not? Do you reject its possibility on the basis of a lack of empirical evidence? Well, the following video details an astrobiologist's efforts to explore how life on Mars could exist by exploring places with a similar environment. One such place is Chile, specifically the Atacama Desert, where in some places haven't seen rain in 400 years. Armanda Azuo-Bustas provides a unique perspective, having been born in the Atacama Desert. Please pay close attention to the following video.
So in my case, I focus in the intimate relationship between water and life in order to understand we could find life in a planet as dry as Mars. But since I do not have the $2.5 billion to send my own robot to Mars, I studied the most marginal place on Earth, the Atacama Desert. Located in northern Chile, it is the oldest and driest desert on Earth. To give you an idea of how dry it is, consider here in Vancouver it rains over 1,000 millimeters of rain every year. In the Atacama, there are places with no reported rains in the last 400 years. How do I know this? Well, because I was born and raised in the Atacama. So I had a unique advantage when I started studying this desert. So let me tell you just a few fantastic examples he has found on how life has adapted to live with almost no water at all. One of my first findings was in the entrance of a cave facing the Pacific Ocean. In this place, we reported a new type of microalgae that grew only on top of the spider webs that covered the cave entrance. Have you ever seen a spider web early in the morning? It's covered with dew. So this microalgae learned that in order to carry photosynthesis in the coast of the driest desert on Earth, they could use the spider webs. So here they may access the water from the fogs that regularly cover these areas in the morning. In another cave, we found a different type of microalgae. This one is able to use ocean mist as a source of water, and strikingly lives in the very bottom of a cave. So it has adapted to live with less than 0.1% of the amount of light that regular plants need. This type of findings suggests to me that on Mars, we may find even photosynthetic life inside cave. By the way, that's me. Now, for almost 15 years, this region of Jangai, discovered by NASA, was thought to be the driest place of this desert. But I knew that it was not. How? You already know the answer. Because I was born and raised in this desert. So I remember that I usually see fogs in Jangai. So after studying sensors in a number of places, I remember never seeing fogs or clouds. I reported 4 other sites much drier than Jangai.
So, what I could gather from this video is that on the basis of where we grow up, our perspectives are immensely different. So how do our perspectives differ? Is it that a difference in cultural background, or the environment we grew up in, or even the environment we're in right now? How does this impact the way we construct knowledge? By questioning the construction of knowledge and the influence of culture, geography, and a plethora of other factors, we begin to illuminate where we are headed. Thank you. I would now like to call on Natasha Katoch for the 4th presentation.
Hello everybody. Before I begin, and before you can see the video, I have a set of questions, and you can answer them by a show of hands. How many of you here think that you're beautiful? Okay, splendid, all right, yes. How many of you here think that you're popular? Only one hand. Yes, 2, thank you. How many of you think that you're captivating and admirable? All right, splendid. How many of you identify with the word extrovert? How many of you think that you're an extrovert? How about introvert? Okay, quite some number of hands. Welcome to the conference. How many of you think that you're an ambivert? Yes, middle ground. All right. How many of you identify with the word narcissist? I was expecting no hands, but okay. Now that I see whoever has raised their hand, are you sure you know the meaning of narcissist? Or that of narcissism? Or the degree and the grave degree of narcissism? Or even where it came from? Or why do you think that you're a narcissist? So popular culture has taught us to use these words carelessly without knowing their significance. And this video will help you know. Thank you.
Way before the first selfie, the ancient Greeks and Romans had a myth about someone a little too obsessed with his own image. In one telling, Narcissus was a handsome guy wandering the world in search of someone to love. After rejecting a nymph named Echo, he caught a glimpse of his own reflection in a river and fell in love with it. Unable to tear himself away, Narcissus drowned. A flower marked the spot where he died, and we call that flower the Narcissus. The myth captures the basic idea of narcissism, elevated and sometimes detrimental self-involvement. But it's not just a personality type that shows up in advice columns. It's actually a set of traits classified and studied by psychologists. The psychological definition of narcissism is an inflated, grandiose self-image. To varying degrees, narcissists think they're better looking, smarter, and more important than other people, and that they deserve special treatment. Psychologists recognize two forms of narcissism as a personality trait: grandiose and vulnerable narcissism. There's also narcissistic personality disorder, a more extreme form, which we'll return to shortly. Grandiose narcissism is the most familiar kind, characterized by extroversion, dominance, and attention-seeking. Grandiose narcissists pursue attention and power, sometimes as politicians, celebrities, or cultural leaders. Of course, not everyone who pursues these positions of power is narcissistic. Many do it for very positive reasons, like reaching their full potential or helping make people's lives better. But narcissistic individuals seek power for the status and attention that goes with it. Meanwhile, vulnerable narcissists can be quiet and reserved. They have a strong sense of entitlement, but are easily threatened or slighted. In either case, the dark side of narcissism shows up over the long term. Narcissists tend to act selfishly, so narcissistic leaders may make risky or unethical decisions, and narcissistic partners may be dishonest or unfaithful. When their rosy view of themselves is challenged, they can become resentful and aggressive. It's like a disease where the sufferers feel pretty good, but the people around them suffer. Taken to the extreme, this behavior is classified as a psychological disorder called narcissistic personality disorder. It affects 1 to 2% of the population, more commonly men. It is also a diagnosis reserved for adults. Young people, especially children, can be very self-centered, but this might just be a normal part of development. The 5th edition of the American Psychiatric Association's Diagnostic and Statistical Manual describes several traits associated with narcissistic personality disorder. They include a grandiose view of oneself, problems with empathy, a sense of entitlement, and a need for admiration or attention. What makes these traits a true personality disorder is that they take over people's lives and cause significant problems. Imagine that instead of caring for your spouse or children, you use them as a source of attention or admiration. Or imagine that instead of seeking constructive feedback about your performance, you instead told everyone who tried to help you that they were wrong.
All right. I dare quote Kanye West right now. Love yourself like Kanye loves Kanye. What a beautiful thing to identify with oneself. If I were Kanye West, I would wake up every morning and say this to myself. True, we're the generation that breeds in popular culture and a culture that promotes an enormous degree of narcissism. We have people like Kanye West and Donald Trump who walk the very surface of this planet. But yet, what a beautiful thing to identify with oneself. The significance of a mirror and a reflection. Oneself. If it weren't for you, your perception, your thoughts, and your knowledge, there would have been nothing. Absolutely nothing. I would like to exert my perception right now, and I know that many people will come after me for this, but people believe that if it weren't for matter, if it weren't for maths, if it weren't for physics, nothing would be there. If it weren't for numbers, if it weren't for, say, biology, the study of these things. I say that if it weren't for us, if it weren't for our sight and our perception, nothing would be there. Even nothing wouldn't be there. Get it? All right. Nevertheless, I would like to take this opportunity to bring to attention the NPD, the mental illness, and how we have to be sensitive around that cause. And if we can use this conference to promote our understanding of mental health, we should. Thank you so much. I would now like to call on stage Dr. Naidu, our school executive director. If you could please join us.
All right, so good morning to one and all. Very conscious of the fact that I'm the first non-student or adult who's come on behind the mic and started addressing, whether it's last night or this morning. This is not a conference about adults, and I'm standing here in a dual role, triple role actually. One, first of all, as a school director of Pathways, to welcome all the participants, hearty welcome. Delighted to have all of you here. And it is so very exciting to have this two-day TOK conference spanning over 3 days, which is a typical TOK kind of structure. And if one were to go by what we saw last night, or last evening in the amphitheater, I think the spontaneity and the instant participation of the students was absolutely delightful. And all of us are looking forward to a very interactive session as the hours go by. So please make it very interactive. This is about you, it's your conference and your participation. 2, I'm standing here as a disguised guest of honor to make a little TOK kind of interactive presentation. And 3, I'm also standing here as a teacher of long standing with the IB, to just keep the concept of TOK going because of all the changes that have come about in the IB program. The core of the IB has remained the same. Even CAS has changed. The extended essay has evolved considerably, but the concept of TOK has remained the same, which is that there is no final answer, there is no definite answer. You are the defining person, and the validity of the answer depends on your conviction and how you bridge it across to the reader or the listener. So, folks, don't go by my white French beard. That's deception. I'm young at heart and connecting with you very much on that wavelength rather than as an adult. So let's see what I can share with you as the final perspective for this session in the morning. Okay, Surya, so if you can have the first. Now, sorry, before he switches on the first slide, we've seen a lot about vision. We've talked a lot about the mind. I'll be focusing a lot on my session and presentation on the mind and the fact that it's the mind which plays all the games and it is in your control, not in anyone else's control. We've spoken about artificial intelligence this morning. We've spoken about a variety of things. What I'm testing you out today is to keep reflecting on every aspect that is shown this morning on whether it is someone else's mind imposing itself on you or you are in control of your own mind. Yes, please. First slide. So we have this wonderful tree of life, beautifully made and beautifully designed. However, I want you to think in your own mind about whether you see something else in it. And the moment you do, speak up without the mic. Faces, all right, very good. So the next challenge is that there are hidden faces there. And I want you to see how many faces you can see in that. All right. So, some of the experts say that if you see only up to 6, then you're already suffering from mild dementia. So better look for more. Don't force it onto your mind. But I hope you can see 10. How many of you in true honesty saw 10 or have seen 10? Oh, very good. So despite glasses, you got an alert mind. Surya, let's see the next one with the 10, please. All right. I hope you didn't concoct some faces in your own brain. That's where the 10 exists. If you're even sharper, then you might even be able to recognize the faces, but that's not the exercise today. But the point was how the mind can play tricks on you and how what you see is not necessarily what it is. All right, so next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. Okay, so I hope you can now, without the circles, see the 10 faces. Easy enough? Quite often in life, when we're told something, our perception starts getting clearer. But on our own, we are very quick to make our own mind, and we start seeing what we want to see, rather than what there is. In the next video, it's a very compassionate one. Try and figure out for yourself whether it's the mind of the child which has made her come completely out of a disability which she may not have been able to, or it's the dog, or both, or what is it? Yes, Surya, can you see that, please? very difficult to decide. If you think it's the dog, which has made her completely, or at least in her mind, completely come out of her disability. How many think it's the dog? Raise your hand, please. Okay. How many of you think it's the girl herself? How many think it's medical science? And how many of you think it's plain and simple human psychology? Right? I leave you to figure out the answer of that one. But quite often we underestimate any human brain other than that of human beings to be capable of love, compassion, inspiration, and connecting with other living beings. But I hope this was a good example of working together. It's a connection. What a connection is, which has helped the girl come out of a very severe disability which could have confined her to a wheelchair or a bed for the rest of her life. So that's one wonderful story to share. Is the next one a video? Surya, is the next one the video? Yes. All right. The next one will help you all think about your own identity, whether it's in the mind, rejection, whether it's in your mind, other people's minds. What does it take to be a part of a particular nation? How do you find your nationality and how do you find your identity? Let's watch the video and then we'll pick it up from there.
Been called a towel head, a turban head, a rag head, a terrorist, Osama bin Laden, variations of the N-word that I thought never existed. Several weeks ago, two radio hosts were talking about me and the work in my office and claimed that they couldn't remember my name and said that they were going to give me a new name, that they were going to call me Turban Man. And then they sang that in a sing-song voice and made other comments. And I have very thick skin. I've been called far, far worse than Turban Man throughout my life. So on a personal level, it didn't affect me. But when that radio host said, listen, if that offends you, almost directed at me, if that offends you, then don't wear the turban and maybe I'll remember your name. And that's what really caused me to pause. Again, not about me, but how that affected others. In that one moment, that radio host took the most visible article of faith for a sick and just reduced it to nothing. What bothers me is in this moment when we have a president who dehumanizes people, when we have so many people pitting community against community, for people with a platform to act so recklessly and irresponsibly and contribute so negatively to our discourse, I'm afraid where that could lead, and I've seen where that could lead. In recent weeks, two sick gentlemen in California were attacked. You know, there are people in the sick community who are afraid to go out because they don't have the same things, they don't have the same thick skin, rather, that I have. They don't have the same security detail that I have. This is the state I grew up in. This is a state that has afforded me and my family and other immigrant families like mine so many opportunities. I did everything any normal American kid did. Played Little League, played soccer, you know, checked all the boxes. And then I was working in DC one day during 9/11, and a horrible, horrible tragedy hit the United States. But I didn't have time to grieve with my neighbors and my friends. We had this enormous backlash against Muslim Americans, against really anyone who didn't look American enough, or at least against anyone who looked like those images on TV that we associated with the people who were responsible for the attack. So on 9/11, I barely left my office in Washington, D.C. before somebody started calling me bin Laden. And that made me wonder, why is it that, you know, I'm up here, I'm a sick American, you know, as American as anybody else. Why am I being treated this way? And so, you know, I thought it was incumbent upon me to help sort of educate others as to who I was. And I thought there was no better way for me to do that than to become a public servant, and no better public service for me than to become a prosecutor. I don't think I ever thought it was possible for me, or someone like me, who looks like me, who believes like me, to achieve this position. I think what it shows people is that even in this particular moment, that there are pockets of decency in this country, that at least in New Jersey, the American dream is alive and well, and that it doesn't matter what you look like, how you worship, where you come from, who you love, that you could achieve success no matter who you are. I would say to any Sikh American out there who's watching this, that anything is possible for them, that their identity is not an obstacle to success. It might be tough at times. I've been bullied, I've been accosted, I've been not served in restaurants. In this day and age, I have been turned away from service because I wouldn't take off my hat. And I try to explain to people it's not a hat. You know, I go back to what Nelson Mandela said. If you could be taught to hate, you can learn to love. And that's what's motivated me as well. And I think I would just tell them to persevere because anything is possible, and I'm proving that.
Okay, if you can. Do we have any American citizens in the audience? If you could just stand up, please. Do we have any American? What a coincidence. I really didn't know he was. If you can just turn around 360 degrees and show your face. And folks, that's a wonderful coincidence because we do have a Sikh in the audience. I think the question you're asking, look American enough? Do any of them look American? And the bigger question is, what is looking American? Let's look at some other nationality. Any other nationality you got other than Indian? Yes, please. If you could stand and announce your nationality. Sorry? Ivory Coast. All right. If you can just turn around and show yourself. Thank you. Anyone else from any other nationality? Louder, please. Sorry? Nepali. All right. Any other? Then you keep showing yourself 360 degrees, please. Okay, good. Nationalities? Jordanian. All right. Anyone else? Bangladesh. Sorry? Canadian. Yes, please. Polish. Wonderful. Sorry, Italian? Dutch? Hungarian? Swiss. All right. Thank you. And anyone else at the back? Sorry? Tanzanian. Where's Tanzanian? I know where it is. I want to see the person. Oh, Tanzanian. Sorry, we can't see you there. All right. Good. Tanzanian. Anyone else? Kenyan. Kenyan. Anyone else? Russian. All right. There you go. I think you've seen lots of nationalities standing up out here. How would you? For example, even to the four of them sitting in one row there. 4 different nationalities, if I got it right. All right? 2 with the same color of the hair, more or less, from what I can see here. And thing. How do you identify someone? And how do you identify someone? And in today's time and place, is it fair to start prejudging people purely because of the way they look, or the color of the skin, or the color of the hair, or how they speak? Yesterday, I think in one of the discussion aspects, it was that there should be no countries and no boundaries, am I right? That you're debating about in the popcorn debate. And there were both pros and cons to it. And have we compartmentalized the world? Would we be able to survive with so many nationalities here if we were not part of different nations, but we just said we were earthlings, and that's all that matters, or we are human beings, and that's all that matters. Everything else is secondary or not important at all, and it's private. But what is public is that we are part of planet Earth. And this is how the mind plays games on all of us, and this is how other people's minds impose themselves on us to make us believe or not believe what it is. So I hope that just that video clip helps you to understand the plight which many people in the modern day world are facing, because the mindset of what you should look like is so different from what you can be. But that doesn't make you a different person, does it? Your personality and your nature and your inherent goodness is very much the same, irrespective of which nation you belong to. All right, the next slide, please.
It's not a password. I have to log in.
Okay, I know that in theory of knowledge you talk about many ways of knowing. Some of you think your textbooks will tell you about 7 ways of knowing, 10 ways of knowing. There could be a billion ways of knowing. I think since some of you, after the first video clip, responded about sight and you spoke about the senses, I think it's just important to see in 20 seconds the idea of the 5 ways, the 5 senses that we have, and the gut feeling, the intuition, and quite often we don't ascribe enough importance to the gut feeling. But when you go sometimes for an exam, you feel very knotted in the stomach, in your gut. Sometimes you feel squeamish and always want to throw up. And your gut reacts faster than your brain does to any of the other concepts. And in the Mahabharata, you have the 5 brothers, the 5 Pandavas, like the 5 senses perhaps, and you have Karan, who's considered superior to the other 5, and he could be the 6th sense and the 6th stepbrother. And there's a lot of concept that comes across every religion and every mythology about this fact, and it's all a part of perception. And then you've got the other side, where you've got the judgment, which is the heart and the mind. And so often, people have spoken about coming straight from the heart. How do you come straight from the heart? Isn't it your mind that is talking? And why do we keep using this lovely red heart all the time? And yet, every feeling, every judgment, every aspect seems to be a control of the mind. So what is this heart? What is it doing? For thousands of years, people have spoken about it. But in the last 2 years, maybe in the last 1 year, modern science is finally beginning to acknowledge through intensive research that maybe the human heart does have a mind of its own. And it's not necessarily the brain which is controlling the heart, but the heart which could be controlling the brain. And it takes you to the eternal debate of what will keep you alive. If your brain dead, are you still alive? And if your heart dead, are you alive? And that is the debate which goes on. And it's not just organs, but it has a whole lot of judgment involved in that. Right? So give that a thought as you're talking. Okay, finally, the last slide. Interesting one. Read it for yourself. Make sense? Does it have an answer? Can it have an answer? We often get caught in such debates. I'm looking forward to the next 1.5 days, and I'm looking forward to participation. Remember, this is your conference, and this is not an adult conference. So it will be a pity, students, if you allow your teachers to take over. Don't allow them to dominate, even if they're sitting in the sessions. Don't. And the only way you can control the teachers by outspeaking them and outthinking them. All right? Otherwise, they've got to keep the conference alive. I think you did a great job last night. I'm saying that straight from the heart, not from the mind. All right? You did a great job last night in spontaneity. And keep that alive in every discussion that you have. Every aspect in life, every conference is as good or bad as you make it. It's up to you to make this into the greatest experience ever. Thank you very much, and looking forward to that aspect as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Naidu, for your stimulating array of ideas. We also thank Ritvik, Parinita, Tejas, and Natasha for their engaging deliberations.
May we now call on stage grade 10 students who are proud to present dance drama on the life of the Mauryan Emperor Ashoka. Ashoka, as a young prince, was extremely ambitious and led many valiant battles to expand his territory. However, the Battle of Kalinga changed the course of his life forever. On witnessing the wanton destruction caused by him, he felt great remorse and turned to Buddhism. From then onwards, he followed the path of Dhamma, or righteousness. Ashoka's life story holds a message for all of us, to turn from violence in action and thought to an affection for all beings around us.
The dance has been depicted in 5 short scenes. The first scene introduces the dancers and sets the ambience of the Mauryan era. The next scene is the warrior scene, wherein the prince is being trained, and it is depicted through the Indian martial art Kalari Payattu. The prince is then coronated in the third scene, which is followed by the battle scene. In the final scene, Ashoka realizes the horrors of war and turns to Buddhism to help him find righteousness. Thank you, students of grade 10. That was truly a wonderful performance. This articulate choreography has epitomized the realization that war and violence may be considered futile in the face of righteousness and humanity. May we please have another round of applause for the dancers.
We once again We would like to invite on stage the dance department to join the dancers on stage.
Okay, first of all, because I think these two performances we've seen, all three, including Urjishi, have been very powerful performances, and they put their heart and soul into it. We should give them a loud round of applause. And thank you to the dance teachers for working very hard with them. I also want this to be a special moment for a new young Ashoka, if you can take a step forward. And why am I saying that? Because more experienced, seasoned Ashoka had to go away for a basketball tournament a couple of days ago, and we had to groom a new young Ashoka to take over. And I'm sure you'll all agree that he did a remarkable job in very short time. Well done. Not taking any credit away from all the other old hands who've been doing this for a while, and you come across very well. It's a very powerful dance, and thank you for performing in front of the audience today. Thank you very much. Before they hand over to the MCs, it's almost a request and a plea. Even for the adults, please, we try our best to avoid using mobile phones, even for texting and watching WhatsApp and messages and whatever, and for talking while we're walking around the campus. So please refrain from doing that, because we sincerely believe that we are here to connect as human beings and not through gadgets. And most of the time, we will slice through each other and not even say a hi or acknowledge each other if you're walking around and we are busy with our mobile phones. I think you'll understand over the next 1.5 days, if you've consciously weaned away from the gadget and connected with what you're really here for, which is the human being and the human mind, you will go back a little changed person. So do it consciously, unless you're using it as part of the discussion group or for research or something spontaneously. But as you're walking around, this includes all the pathways in, I keep reminding them again and again, as you're walking, the tendency will be the moment you get out of this hall, everyone's going to start going onto their systems. Avoid it. Instead of that, make eye contact. You may see a dancer, you may see a fellow teacher, you may see someone else. Appreciate. There's a lot of artwork of the students which is hanging out there. You might want to just connect with the ambience and with each other rather than with your gadget. And if it's urgent for your families, I can tell you they're not missing you. All right? And I'm sure you're not missing them either. So refrain from it and have a great conference. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We will now be disbanding into various workshops, which I'm sure will rejuvenate you and provide you with profound insight into an array of knowledge issues. We will reconvene after lunch at 1:45 for a group photograph right opposite Kasturi in the amphitheater. We also look forward to seeing you all at the gala dinner this evening. Now, we request each workshop leader to come up on stage.
don't write a live stream. Live stream is
Participants, please rise as your workshop name is announced and follow your workshop leaders into the respective venues.
Do Not Cross, led by Tejas Tani Sharma and Kanav Gupta in room number 204.
Kavan.
In Takshashila.
What happens to the refreshments?
So they move directly for the sessions. The refreshments was done.
In Takshila?
Yeah, that.
Not outside here?
Now we have sessions directly.
They're going straight into the session?
Yes, sir.
I see, you see, we all see, but do we? Led by Parinita Bali and Ritvik Verma in room number 206. Nothing is certain except doubt, led by Aryaman Sinha and Gurkirat Anuja. Room 207. To be or not to be ethical, led by Shaina Suri and Suhani Thandi, room 217.
क्यों?